On Thursday, April 12, Justice Devindra Rampersad will rule on a case that is challenging Sections 13 and 16 of the Sexual Offences Act in Trinidad and Tobago. Section 13 speaks to the act of buggery or sodomy being an offence. Although not in force, it's a law which essentially makes homosexuality illegal. The case was brought by the activist Jason Jones, and Thursday's ruling could have the potential to affect laws not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the Commonwealth Caribbean. We go live to Attorney at Law Leah Thompson to discuss the implications of this case. Hi Leah, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Nice to be here.
So I understand that Commonwealth law has a savings clause which effectively could limit Justice Rampersad's ability to rule on this particular case. What kind of effect can this have on what's going to happen tomorrow on the Jones versus the Attorney General case?
Well, you're very correct. Unfortunately, there is this locally savings law clause that's found in Section 6 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. And what that does is any old laws that existed prior to our Constitution coming into force, those laws are still protected despite the fact that they may be unconstitutional. So the first barrier that Jason would have to, or Jason's attorneys would have to get over is whether the court is going to find that Section 13 and Section 16 are old or existing laws. And if the court does find that, then those laws would be protected by Section 6 or the savings law clause and would still have to stand despite being unconstitutional.
Now, the thing is that these laws in their current form do have the potential to infringe on people's personal, sexual, and equal protection. So surely they should be changed, right?
Yeah, that is exactly what Jason is asking the court to look at. The second part of his argument is that should the court agree with him and find that the law is in fact a new law, so it should not be protected under the Constitution. There is also the second part of the mix, or the second barrier, is that even new laws can still stand despite their unconstitutionality if they are passed with a 3/5 majority in Parliament, which the Sexual Offences Act has been passed with. But there's also this condition that that is put, or the Constitution puts, on those type of laws. And it says that those laws can only stand where they are reasonably justifiable in a society that protects the rights of its citizens. So that actually touches on the second part of Jason's argument, which is, despite the fact that it may have passed the 3/5 majority, we're asking this court to ask this question: are laws like these really justifiable? Should they stand in a society that is serious about protecting the human rights of its citizens?
Now, Jason's case is against the government, against the Attorney General. The Attorney General is named because he represents the government. How is the government defending their position in this particular case?
Well, interestingly, they have not made it about gay rights, homosexuality. Their argument really hinges on the savings law clause. They actually made that very clear in the beginning. The way they framed the case, they made it very clear that we are a society, the Constitution protects all citizens. However, we are just in this unfortunate situation where we do have a savings law clause. If you ask the court to deal with these kind of laws, they will always meet that barrier of the savings law clause. And in fact, if a law like this is to be struck down or taken off the books, the correct means by which that should be done is via Parliament.
Okay, so having said that, I want you to focus a little bit for me. If this case goes in the way that Jason hopes, what are the possible implications for Trinidad and the Commonwealth Caribbean?
I mean, I think the implications are great. It would show not just the outside world, but really the citizens of the Caribbean, of the Commonwealth, that this region is really serious about human rights. It is serious about protecting its citizens. But I think, I just want to temper that with the reality of the court system, which is Even though we may have a judgment on Thursday, this is really just the first stage of the matter. Very likely, one of the parties will, choose to appeal. The matter could then go to our Court of Appeal, and after that, there's also the option of going to the Privy Council in England. So, it is a long road ahead, but ultimately, I think if there is a ruling in Jason's favor, it's great not just for the LGBT community, but for all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, because this affects the human rights of all of us. It's all our human rights.
And really, really quickly, if the case doesn't go as planned, like if he doesn't get the results that he wants, you did mention earlier that he might have to take it to the Parliament. Could you briefly give me a timeline of how that can work?
At any point, the Parliament could step in and make a decision to amend the bill or discuss it in Parliament and make an amendment. I don't think that is a likely outcome. So what we're likely looking at is after the case has made its way through the courts, after it's gone through the Court of Appeal, Privy Council, depending on which way the Privy Council swings, let's say it goes against Jason, that's where the community comes in and pressure should be put on Parliament to, really take the human rights of its citizens seriously and make changes to the law at that stage.
Okay, so thank you so much, Leah, because this has been very complicated, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to explain the legal steps to us. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been speaking to Leah Thompson, an attorney in Trinidad and Tobago.